Remember when the AAA space was like a guarantee safe bet? Like it was where all the magic happened. The term AAA itself represents large teams with big budgets, and because of that, there's more resources to make better products. That's what I used to think, that's what it used to mean. Man, that's not true anymore.
Well, how the mighty have fallen.
I don't know if it's just me, but I can't help but look at 2025 and AAA and just feel this overwhelming sense of just unsatisfaction. Like we should be getting more than what we are. I don't know, is it just me?
Is it just me?
If you look at the whole field of games released this year, the quality is coming from the AA and recently, as my kind of part 1 to this video suggested, indie games. But what was supposed to be an exciting year on paper for the big boys, the games that on paper should have been Game of the Year contenders, either aren't as good as what we expected, and when they are good, they're plagued with so many technical problems that it's caused us to have a serious conversation about Unreal Engine 5. Not saying there haven't been any good games, as I'll explain in a bit. There have been, but I can't help but feel like we're being served undercooked or unseasoned food in an age where prices are higher and competition is louder. That's not gonna work anymore, and it's not working anymore. But you know what? I don't feel like putting too much fluff in here today, so let's just get to it. Why does AAA feel so disappointing right now? Well, unlike them, I won't charge $70 for the answer. So strap in, boys and girls, and let's get down to business. The first reason is entirely obvious to anybody who's paying attention. Why are these games so disappointing? This has been going on for a while now, but recent events have made it abundantly clear that the elites can no longer guarantee our safety. Where there was once quality, there is now mediocrity. Where there was once innovation, there is now stagnation. AAA, which used to be the safest bet in games, has now become synonymous with overpricing and underdelivering. I don't know how many times I sat down to play a big release this year, and I just wasn't feeling anything. Like there was no soul in what I was playing. Out of all the big releases this year, the only AAA games that I played that I would consider to be actually high quality, finished, incredible games are Battlefield 6 and Arc Raiders. I'm sure DK Bonanza and Silent Hill F are great too, but I haven't played them, so you know what? Let's pretend for a second that I did. That's still only 4 games I would consider to be truly great and well polished. Monster Hunter Wilds, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Oblivion Remaster, Elden Ring Night Rain. Oh God, that one hurt. Death Stranding 2, Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, Borderlands 4, Ghost of Yotei, and Ninja Gaiden 4. This is the lineup I played this year. All of them except for Shadows had hype and excitement behind them. Some had massive marketing pushes, and then I played them and it felt either one of 3 things: nothing, disappointment, or anger. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and this ties into what I said in my indie games video I just made, and that's the reason I don't feel anything. It's because most of these games are just rehashes of what's already been done before. I already played the formula. Now, normally that wouldn't be a problem, but if that's all you're getting, or most of what you're getting, then it starts to feel like we're running out of ideas. Throw in the competition from AA and Indie, and the rise of games from Eastern countries like Korea and China, and now there's no place for complacency. But nobody has told most of these guys.
No, this is a bad cat. Mother only likes cats who follow the rules.
What the hell is that?
I'll give you an example. Let's take Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 4 is admittedly a fun game, and I like the game. I'm not saying I don't, but the moment I started it, it hit me. Something was missing. Something wasn't clicking. And that's weird because I like Ninja Gaiden, and I loved Ninja Gaiden 2 Black back in January, but when I fired up Ninja Gaiden 4 and started to play it and put more hours into it, I wasn't feeling that same satisfaction, and that's because it's more Ninja Gaiden. Now again, there's nothing wrong with more of the formula that clearly works, but when you've seen that formula before and nothing around that formula has gotten more interesting, the 4th time of hacking and slashing doesn't work anymore. And you can see it in the player numbers. People aren't interested. This goes for so many of the other ones. Borderlands 4 is ultimately more Borderlands. AC Shadows is a game we've all played before and hated. Ghost of Yotei is just more Ghost. Metal Gear Solid 3 and Oblivion Remaster are games you've literally played before. I always talk about how the most important thing is gameplay, but another part of that is how you advance and build off your gameplay in your sequels. And if you're not making enough meaningful changes, then it just feels like something you've already played before. But hey, Hey, you know what? I'm an old school Assassin's Creed fan. I've dealt with games released back to back that don't really change much with gameplay, because there's another way you can circumvent this. It's with good stories. But nowadays, that's about as rare as an honest games journalist. I don't know what college Ivy League intellectual bullshit cheat off my roommate's paper losers are being hired to write these stories, but wherever they're finding these guys, it's time to send them back. These guys can't write for shit. Every story just seems so lackluster and so uninteresting. Like no thought was put into it at best, and at worst, they're phoned in. Now, normally I'm not someone who harps too much on story. Usually gameplay has always been the most important quality to me, but if the gameplay feels the same, then you would expect most of the advancements to come from the story. Better writing than the predecessors, and stuff like that. But that's not the case here. How is it that we can get 3 incredible stories from 3 different AA studios in the same year, but not a single AAA studio can give us a compelling narrative? Don't you give me Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yotei Best Narrative nominations at the Game Awards. I got a lot to say about those things. Matter of fact, let's talk Ghost of Yotei, because I think this exemplifies this point perfectly. I am someone who thinks that Tsushima is a masterpiece. Whether you agree with that or not, that is my personal view. So coming into Yotei, I was looking to see how they would improve the formula, but the combat plays almost identical to the first game, aside from now being able to pick up scattered weapons and throwing them at your enemies, which, I'm not gonna lie, it feels incredible. And when it comes to stealth, you got the new Kurosagama assassination, but nothing else. Yeah, we got new weapons, but they're just new versions of the stances, so you're still doing the same thing that you were in the first game. So combat and stealth don't change a lot, which in its own right, not a bad thing. But when you look to story to pick up the slack, oh boy, it does not. Going from a story that explores a samurai having to break his code to save his homeland and the fallout of that, to a generic revenge plot that's been done so many times before, that's not a recipe for success. Atsu as a character is not bad, but nowhere near as complex as Jin Sakai, and the villain is nowhere near as intimidating as Koten Khan, which to this day I think is the most underappreciated villain in gaming. The side characters don't have as much depth as the ones in Tsushima. Like, every aspect of the story is a regression, and there were times where I was just not motivated to play Yotei. And if you told me that at the beginning of the year, I would have slapped you in the face and pushed you out a window. But when we do get games that are enjoyable and hold our interest, they're ruined by poor optimization. Like, bro, how is it this broken? You're worth so much money! Like, in case you haven't been punched enough, this is where the anger portion comes in. We now live in an age where getting a finished and well-polished game from a AAA studio, there's like a 25% chance that's gonna happen. Games being rushed out the door to meet deadlines instead of delaying it further to patch things up, it's gotten so bad, especially with games made in Unreal Engine 5, that it led to the CEO of Epic himself coming out and defending it. By the way, I think that this isn't Unreal's fault. This is the fault of the devs, because Arc Raiders was made in Unreal, and that game runs like f***ing butter. And from what I can gather, Silent Hill F was made in Unreal Engine, and it's been described as one of the most polished games this year, so it looks like it's a you problem. This has sparked so much anger throughout the year, and rightfully so, and there is no other game that has pissed people off more this year than the Big Daddy Dingus himself, Monster Hunter Wilds. Dude, I've seen some slaps in the face before, but I never expected to see it from a company as highly regarded as Capcom. I never expected it to be so blatant. This is the most obvious take your money and run situation I've ever seen in AAA, because as you probably know by now, Wilds launched in a terrible state all around, but the biggest problems were on PC. Frame rates that couldn't hold, a grainy looking effect to everything, crashes galore, like it was bad. Fans were pissed, but the game was good enough where you could kind of look past it. In February, when the game launched, it is now November, and nothing has been fixed.
What the hell have you been doing the whole time? Stop talking about doing your job and go do your job.
It also turns out that there's not a lot of compelling endgame content to do, as people on Steam with 300 hours are now admitting. Bro, I figured that out after hour 30. Over the next few months, player sentiment completely changed, flooding Steam with negative reviews, sales falling off a cliff, and now the game is nowhere to be seen with any Game of the Year talk. At this point, if anyone says good things about Wilds, they're paraded naked through the street while the crowd yells shame. But don't worry guys, they hear you. They've heard your complaints and your wishes. It took 9 months to get it, but you know, it's okay. It's okay. Better late than never. Our game is broken, and players are not happy, so there's only one logical thing to do here. Hey guys, check out a new KFC promotion.
You got some set of balls, you know that?
Dude, I'm not even a hardcore Monster Hunter fan, and I'm furious with this. I won't even say this is tone deaf, because in order to be tone deaf, you have to be out of touch and not have any idea what your community wants. But Capcom knows how bad this is. How do I know that? Because back in July, they pulled out of a conference talk about Monster Hunter Wilds performance because of developer harassment. Yeah, and totally not because you have no credibility on this topic and would have been laughed out of the building. And if you read into the tea leaves, you'll realize that Wilds was released towards the end of Capcom's fiscal year, which ends March 31st, and drove an 8th consecutive year of growth with Capcom. Almost like Capcom released it early and didn't take the time to make sure it worked because they needed to keep that streak alive. There's no other way to say it. Capcom does not care about this game or Monster Hunter fans. They took their money and ran away knowing the performance was unacceptable. And it's disgusting. This is like a Bethesda level fuck up, and trust me right now, that is not a company you want to be associated with. But despite Wilds' screw-ups, that wasn't even the biggest disappointment for me, because I wasn't a Monster Hunter fan to begin with. This was my first game. No. That honor goes to a game I haven't even mentioned yet because I want to see if you guys even remember that this game came out this year. That game? Doom the Dark Ages.
Holy shit, what a fucking disappointment.
You know those two games that pretty much revived the franchise with its fast-paced movement, high-octane action, and gory demon-slaying badassery? Yeah, let's take all that out, make the game slower, and put more emphasis on a lazy parry system, put in a story that is boring at best, have sections with giant mechs and dragons that somehow feel uninspired, and worst of all, let's take out glory kills.
Man, quit playing with me, man. No, for real, don't play like that.
Whatever genius at the studio thought this was a good idea, I hope they're part of the next round of layoffs. The key hallmark of modern Doom games, and you take that out, this is literally identical to taking fatalities out of Mortal Kombat. The game is now neutered. Honestly, going outside my feelings for a second, if you're a new player and you're objectively looking at the game, it's still a fun shooter, I'm not gonna lie. But bro, this is Doom. This is not supposed to be just a fun shooter. What we got instead of the gold that was Doom 2016 and Eternal was a half-baked attempt to try and make Doom something it's not. And that's a shame because the world and art direction of Dark Ages is incredible. And speaking of half-baked, I was lucky enough not to update my driver for this game because I had heard beforehand that updating your driver makes the game a broken mess. But the downside to that is that when I was recording, OBS only captured the corner of the screen, which sucks and is why I'm only showing trailer footage here and not my own. I couldn't even enjoy that. Okay, so now that I got my disappointment and anger out of the way, as you could clearly see, AAA quality means something completely different now and not in a good way. And it just hasn't worked this year. But you know what else hasn't worked? And what is really starting to bite them in the ass? It's something I asked in my indie video, and I will ask again. What are people very sensitive to nowadays?
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the car.
I'm going to pull up something that the great Legendary Drops put out back in October. Fun fact, if you bought all the biggest games released in the past 2 months, you would have spent almost $700. Just the AAA ones? $420 plus. Jesus Christ, dude, that's too much. This sums up our current situation perfectly, and it really starts to show that this $70 price tag is now starting to become more of a liability than a positive in the eyes of gamers. I mean, $70 is a steep hill already, but at least it's not $80. Thank God people revolted against that. But it's still a lot of money for a single game, so you start to get more skeptics, and worse off, more people waiting for a sale. I can speak on this. You know why I haven't played Silent Hill F yet? Because even though everyone seems to love it, I don't want to shell that money out when there's so many other great indies that have just come out and are now taking up my time. Ooh, and to make matters worse for them, I'm currently in the middle of playing Where Winds Meet. That game is free. Which, by the way, it's insane that game is free. I'm going to make a video on that next. But if all of those games are better for $30, $20, $10, and nothing at all, why would I want to spend $70 right now when I can just wait for a Black Friday sale, which is exactly what I'm doing? If I'm thinking this, and I'm someone who's an enthusiast, what is an average Joe who works a 9 to 5 thinking when he sees something like this? You know, the guy who on average buys 2 games a year? People do not have the money to shell out for all these games, and when you consider the quality aspect that I've been talking about, spending $70 on inferior games sounds absolutely foolish. You know what? I could have been more forgiving towards Ninja Gaiden 4 and Ghost of Yotei. I could have been enjoying it a lot more if the reality didn't exist that I paid $70 for a game that I'm not enamored with. Oh no, here comes the depression.
Oh, man. Oh, God. Oh, man.
These games are not good enough anymore to demand this price. They may be fun, they may be worth your time, but you really need to ask yourself, how much are gamers willing to shell out for them? Knowing now that they're starting to look a lot less interesting, and more than likely will have some sort of technical problems on a machine that I literally shelved out $4 grand for. Shut up, I know it's not just me. But the part of this tweet that really blows my mind is that these are games that have been released only in the last 2 months. I didn't realize this until late August, but since that point, there have just been way too many game releases. I don't know if GTA 6 got everybody's release calendars in a bunch, but in late August, we got Metal Gear Solid Delta and Lost Soul Side. On September 4th, we got both Hollow Knight Silksong and Hell Is Us. The next day, we got Chronos The New Dawn. On September 12th, we got Borderlands 4. On the 18th, we got Megabon. The next day, we got Dying Light the Beast. On the 24th, we got Escape from Duckov. The next day, we get both Hades 2 and Silent Hill F. October 2nd, we get both Ghost of Yotei and the Mario Galaxy bundle. You for that, Nintendo. October 10th, Battlefield 6. October 15th, Ball X Pit. The next day, Pokemon Legends Seed A. October 21st, Ninja Gaiden 4. The 29th, Outer Worlds 2 and Dispatch. The next day, Arc Raiders. And on November 14th, we get both Black Ops 7 and Where Winds Meet.
Okay. I think it's all gone.
At this point, my wallet is dead. How the hell are you supposed to keep track of all of this? At some point, you as a studio have to look at what's coming and be like, okay, there's way too much happening. I don't think my game is going to get the attention it normally would. It's clearly crowded. Let me delay this so I don't get lost in the stampede. Especially if your game is $70 and is in a whirlwind of great $20 indies. Silent Hill F sold 1 million copies up to this point. That's great. But how many more would they have sold if Hades 2 didn't launch on the same day? Granted, that was kind of a last minute reveal, but everybody's trying to vie for player time, but not realizing that they all have to shit in a bathroom that only has 4 stalls. Sorry, most of you guys are shitting on the floor. Nope, don't go in the urinal, you freaks. But through all of this, the indies are succeeding through this avalanche because of price. I can go on a spending spree to get Megabonk, Ball Pit, Dispatch, Shape of Dreams, and Peak because that would cost me less than the price of 2 AAA games. And I had more fun with them all. Yeah, I got around to playing Peak after the last video. Great game. But this is the problem that AAA is now facing. They are risking getting kneecapped by competitive pricing and are releasing way too close together. And if you think it's gonna stop, you haven't seen March, 007 First Light, Mouse PI for Hire, Soros, and a little game called Crimson Desert. 3 of those games are going to be $70. Mouse PI being an indie game is going to make it less, so guess what might be another surprise hit? But the core issue is that AAA is not taking the consumer into account, and now they are paying the price for it. Just like we have since 2021. How ironic. So AAA is in a spot right now where things have never been more expensive and trust has never been lower. And I can't exactly sit here and say it's not their own fault. For years, they've been selling us the same game with minor tweak here and there, but that no longer works because of the innovation these smaller studios have been coming up with. The bar has been raised for quality and polish, but big studios cannot seem to get out of their own way. And in 2025, we've been feeling that constantly, with new games that don't satisfy us the way they used to and give us more of the same, but for higher prices. AAA needs to learn from what's been going on with AA and indie soon, because if they keep getting outplayed, there might not be a future for some of these guys. Whether that's layoffs or full studio shutdowns, you can do the math. Because finally, the big boys have real competition, and that competition is doing donuts around them in the parking lot. And it's time you wake up and start getting tips from the driver. So, enough blabbering from me. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe to ZD Boy for more great content. Alright everybody, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace!